We are privileged to have with us today two distinguished speakers from the field of education. Maybe two and a half, we'll see. Dr. Cesar Cruz received his doctorate in educational leadership at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, becoming the first Mexican-American male to do so. The recipient of the Jefferson Award for Public Service, Cesar currently serves as a Bridge Fellow for the national organization, the New Teacher Project. From marching 76 straight miles to hunger striking for 26 days, Cesar has dedicated his life to fighting for justice. Born in Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico, Cesar migrated to the United States with a single mother and grandmother. He grew up in Compton and moved to the Bay Area to study. He has been an educator for 23 years. He co-founded the independent school Making Changes, and he's the author of two books, Revenge of the Illegal Alien and Bang for Freedom. Dr. Cruz. Our other speaker is Dr. G. Reyes. He holds a PhD in education from UC Berkeley, an MA in teaching from the Center for Social Justice and Teaching Excellence at the University of San Francisco, and a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Engineering from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Before pursuing higher education, he attended California public schools in Pittsburgh, Oakland, and Alameda. Dr. Reyes currently works in the Graduate School of Education as a research scholar at Stanford University and a visiting assistant professor at Mills College. As a professional in the field of education, he has had a variety of experiences in K-12 education, schooling, youth development, and teacher preparation. Please join me in welcoming our two speakers.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Santiago, and I believe that kids matter too, so I will speak out on behalf of Cesar Chavez. Imagine you are 10 years old, and you've already been to 30 schools. You can never keep a friend for long because you have to keep moving for work. Imagine not having enough money to have basic needs like clothes or food. But Cesar was creative. Cesar and his friends would go fishing after school and cut mustard greens for meals. Cesar and his brother were so smart that they would take out the aluminum of cigarette packages until they had a big ball of foil to sell to a junk dealer to buy tennis shoes and 2 t-shirts. Think about that. Cesar had a hard time in school because it was segregated and there was no speaking Spanish, so it really was subtractive schooling. That meant they take his Spanish language from him. He stopped going to school in the 8th grade to help the family by working in the fields. He worked for 5 years until he left to the Navy at the age of 19. He spent 2 years in the Western Pacific and then came back in 1948 and got married. To me, it is very powerful that Cesar always found a way and could never be stopped. Like money, we pass down a legacy. Let's pass on Cesar's hard work and fighting for our rights at this specific period of time. Rest in peace, Cesar Chavez. Thank you so much.
Future President of the United States, Santiago.
I'm a proud papa this morning. Can we please give Santiago some love? Dear County and all of you that came from so far, that was my 9-year-old son, Santiago Olin, sharing with you a little bit about what he researched and learned about Cesar Chavez. Ultimately about finding a way out of no way. As a proud dad, it's an honor to get to speak after him. must admit, even though I'm not 9 years old, I'm extremely nervous because I'm in the company of a lot of activists, a lot of people that have been fighting for a long time in this community, and it's just an honor to be in your presence. And so with that, we'll jump in. First and foremost, I want to say thank you. It says a lot about your leadership board of supervisors that you're choosing to honor the work of justice, the legacy of Cesar Chavez's life on this 24th commemorative celebration. If you allow me, I wonder what might the late great Cesar Chavez say to us in this moment, in these times. I had the good fortune to get to know the late great Helen Chavez. May she too rest in peace. I also have had the good fortune to get to know many of their kids and grandkids. It is with their permission that I speak this morning. And I wonder what Cesar Chavez might say to us now if he were alive or if somehow he could come back and see what's happening in 2017. Might he begin like this? Dear County, first and foremost, thank you. Like you, I too served our country. My service began when at age 19, like my son said, I joined the Navy. I returned to some really hard times back at home, and I began to find my life's calling. It was to stand with farm workers who were living off of starvation wages, trying to sleep and survive in tents, exposed to dangerous chemicals every day, 24/7, and working 12-hour days in backbreaking work that has made billions of dollars for this country, but our people had little to no rights, including some of the basics like having the right to go to the bathroom. Imagine your back being bent all day in 100-degree weather that is burning the back of your neck, the stench of toxins, and a thin bandana that attempts to cover your nose so that hopefully you are not intoxicated by the poison that is being sprayed above you. Imagine your bones, your body wanting to give out, but you work and you work and you work building this nation's economy, but the more you work, the poorer you get, the sicker you get. Just try and imagine that. I found myself, like many of you, needing to stand up. Quickly, I had to learn to organize. It was Filipinos like Larry Itliong and Philip Veracruz that led the way. But today, we are not honoring them. I learned about picket lines and being on strike for 5 years. 5 years not knowing what we're going to eat, where food is going to come from. 5 winters not knowing if we would survive the cold. But I learned to call on the county, on good folks like yourselves, students and activists to boycott grapes. And we, together, we found a way out of no way, didn't we? I found myself needing to travel all over the world, needing to speak, having to learn to speak up, even if there were presidents who stood in our way. We fought with our life for every bathroom break, every wage increase, every contract, and we won many a victory. We used every tactic imaginable, from Teatro Campesino to marching 350 straight miles. And we brought our issues to buildings like these. Some of your parents fought with us. Some of you marched with us too. After I died in 1993, I was deeply surprised that 50,000 of you would carry my body through the fields of Delano. That's not why I did this work. That's not why we do this work. I don't need to tell you, but 25 years after my death, so much has changed, but in many ways we still need to stand up for our rights. It's hard to imagine that this state gave me a state holiday. Can you believe that I am on a U.S. stamp? Now, I see people wearing shirts with my face on them. People drive cars with Cesar Chavez stickers. They pass by many Cesar Chavez boulevards. passing by Cesar Chavez schools, hearing Cesar Chavez commercials, seeing Cesar Chavez billboards, announcing a Cesar Chavez luncheon. But I'm wondering, what is all this for? I'm wondering if you praise me, if you praise us, or possibly curse us. When farm workers are still living off of starvation wages, when our people are still in tents, when we're still smelling chemicals all day, when we're still working in back-breaking work 12 hours a day with little to no rights, and we're called every bad name in the book now by this U.S. president. We are being scapegoated and undermined. It seems that nothing that we stood for is actually respected. Am I being praised here this morning or institutionalized? Are we getting our due, or are we being silenced into a catchphrase? Porque sí se puede olvidar la opresión. Sí se puede convertirme into an icon and forget that our humble ideas were hardly followed then, and they're not being followed today. So I have to assume that you'd rather not just have this beautiful luncheon, not just have the county members wear Cesar Chavez shirts on Cesar Chavez Boulevard passing by Cesar Chavez School, but rather, how might the county and all its residents truly honor a legacy of justice and service to others? How might we sacrifice so that no one gets deported, victimized, incarcerated, beaten, or killed? Are you with me this morning, county? It is my friend Dr. King that would not stand idly by to unjust laws. I applaud you, county, because you say you're a sanctuary, but you have 2 jails for my undocumented people. Explain that to me, county. How might we stand with Muslims, with refugees, with women, with African Americans, with immigrants, and anyone under attack today? In your program, you saw the following. You attack Mexicans, it's an attack on me. You attack Muslims, it's an attack on me. You attack women, it's an attack on me. You attack water, it's an attack on us. You attack Mother Earth, it's an attack on us. You attack African Americans, it's an attack on us. You attack people's health care, it's an attack on us. You attack an immigrant, you attack me. You attack indigenous land, you attack me. Whoever you attack, it's an attack on me. I will not stand idly by. We are not alone. We will resist. Fear and hatred will never conquer love. You can build your 20-foot border because we have 21-foot ladders. See, David has already defeated Goliath. And Moses has already taken on the Pharaoh. Harriet Tubman faced greater odds. We shall not be moved. You keep trying to bury us, but do you not know that we are seeds? But if you choose to honor me, if you choose to honor Cesar Chavez, it means that we must also honor and hear from Filipino leaders that co-led this movement. Those elders, the Manongs, are part of a history that is hardly ever taught. That is why on this day, I am sharing time with Dr. Reyes as he's going to step forward to set the record straight. But before we do so, I just want to say muchas gracias, and I want to ask you something. ¿Se puede? ¿Se puede? Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Muchas gracias.
I'm normally have to be here today. Give it up for Cesar and Olin one more time. But it is with honor and pride that I come back to this county. I'm a Pitt High graduate from 1989. Give it up, Pitt. And so I start off this talk with a couple of letters. The first one to what we call the Manongs. The Manongs are our Filipino elders. The second letter I'll be delivering is one to this county. So dear Manongs, it's ironic how recognition comes more after one leaves, after one has had time, after no more time, after one dies. You will be proud to know that March 31st is now known as Cesar Chavez Day, first observed in California in 1995, 2 years after Cesar died. 9 years after that, President Obama proclaimed it as a national holiday. And perhaps this is one way to look at how education of the heart persisted. In Manong Larry, you'd be surprised to know Governor Jerry Brown signed a bill in 21-5 to make October 25 Larry Itliong Day. In California, to recognize you, another organizer, leader of labor unions, up and down the West. But Manongs, all this makes me wonder about who, what we remember, who, what we don't, and the political and cultural consequences of a dismembered society and history. So today I want to remember a story that's been disassembled, dismembered, like a jigsaw puzzle, but with missing pieces. A jigsaw puzzle with missing pieces will never show the whole story. So I want to repiece a story that seems erased, because forgetting seems too accidental. I want to remember you both, not to slight Cesar, but to celebrate his plight even deeper. Manong Philip, it was you who said we need truth more than we need heroes. Because the truth, with all its contradictions, challenges, and amazing feats of courage, resilience, helps us to see the humanity in us all. It tells us that we must forgive our own selves for not being perfect enough for our people, despite how much we try. And so, Manong Larry, you came here to the States, convinced by American teachers, preachers who professed an America that would take care of you with its democratic principles, its ideals. So you came here with zeal to sow your own seeds in hopes this America would fulfill its promise to you, prepare you to sprout, blossom, enough to return back sa atin, our motherland, as a success. So you came here, like thousands of others, at first with the status of U.S. national, because President McKinley paternalistically called us his little brown brother. Little brown brother, little and brown, code for less than, inferior, stained, dirty. See, manufacturers' beliefs such as these convinced this country that the Philippines needed to be saved, civilized. Manufactured beliefs such as these convinced this country, justify to this country every day, to this day, that black lives don't matter, that Muslims are terrorists, that walls protect, that grabbing women is part of being a man, that aliens are not human. But in your time, they called you brown monkeys, said that you were a cancer destroying American ideals, said that the best way to pacify a Filipino was to educate him. And the U.S. was just a savior to do that. This country has a legacy of being eager to believe particular narratives about certain groups of people. Americans are easy to believe in the inherent insufficiency, inherent criminality, inherent lack of intelligence, buffoonery, pathology of certain groups of people. So it should not be a surprise that by 1934 you were stripped of your U.S. national status to be given another name, named other, technically alien. Because like today, back then being alien made you different than, inferior to, made not human. Even though there are already 100,000 of your countrymen, kababayan, other manongs already here by then in the cantaloupe fields of Chula Vista, canneries of Anchorage, sugarcane plantations of Hawaii, San Joaquin Valley. You were sanctioned by law and mutilated to becoming alien. and to be given that short hoe that sowed sour grapes of wrath into hunchbacks, aching backs, breaking backs that roamed through rows of earth underneath heavy heat, smothered and dried underneath disenfranchised Delano sun. And Manong Philip, you came here to States to create a better life, wanting to taste that American pie filled with false promises, synonymous with streets lined with gold palaces, but the conditions here for you were no better than back home in the provinces. In many ways, worse. And you were here alone, a single man who carried on your back the responsibility of sending back that money to your family. So you picked up that short hoe and worked those grapes, those soiled grapes, those spoiled grapes fermented by dehumanization, creating a freight weighted by anti-miscegenation laws like the Expatriation Act of 1907 that made it so U.S. citizenship would be lost as if at sea. If, and let me be clear about this, a white woman married an alien. Rewind. Let me remember that one more time. Once again, in our country's history, a system of laws was created to strip away rights. And with this particular law, you could not marry even though you loved. Because if you did, that American woman would lose her U.S. citizenship because you were not American, not human, an alien. So day in and day out, you picked with cracked hands, crevices in skin branded by pesticides, made to poison silent eyes to only look down, and droop with dreams deferred, dreams reserved for someone else. But to you both, that was not acceptable. Manong Larry, along with Manongs Ben, Pete, and Philip, you had everyone sit so that everyone could stand at Coachella and demand fair wages. And that was just the first stage, because Manong Larry, you reached out to Cesar. And 2 weeks later, your numbers grew, and the United Farm Workers was born. And 6 months later, you all marched to Sacramento. And 5 years later, wait, rewind, 5 years later, you finally got a contract signed. See, there was nothing easy about that story, even though we celebrated here today. And all the stories that followed afterwards, the movement moved in complicated ways, contradictory ways, imperfect ways, just as I'm sure it is today when you run a school, when you run a city, when you run a county. Sometimes systems, policies, and laws, and the power of language to transmit dominant beliefs complicates the way we are as humans, especially for those who are most marginalized. So today I don't stand here to glorify a simple Hollywood story void of complexity. I stand here today taller than you all imagined, on the shoulders of you both, and Cesar, and Dolores, and all the unnamed, all the forgotten, all the pieces that need repiecing, need remembering, so that we could re-examine how we got here, benefiting from your struggle, and remember that we cannot rest. We must continue to sit so that we all could stand with dignity and re-examine all around us, re-examine within us. We are all beings of contradiction, living within a system that seeks to subordinate. But humans have shown that they can be better than that system. We can transform that system, but we have to transform ourselves. And so let's take a moment to look at ourselves on this day when Cesar Chavez challenged us to have a day on and not a day off. So this letter is really not to the Manongs. This is a letter to Contra Costa County. So dear county, thank you for permitting us to speak. Here in the city of Martinez, on this native Ohlone land, to celebrate what's often uncelebrated, question what's often unquestioned, bring light to what is often kept in the dark. So I invoke the Manong generation of California, the Manongs or Filipino elders who immigrated here in the 1900s to the United States, who sought to take advantage of opportunities that they thought were offered, only to find themselves trapped. I invoke the tiny portion of that history and that of Philip Vera Cruz and Larry Iliong, both members and leaders of the union AFL-CIO, both members and leaders of the union UFW, not to focus on the past, but to show that if we are not careful, then the past will repeat itself. Not to give a history lesson, but rather to leverage a complex and almost forgotten history to set the context for today, drawing parallels to today while celebrating Cesar Chavez and what he symbolized, but also what that might mean for us in 2017. Because today, what is upon us is for some an unveiling of an America that comes as a shock. but always was ever present, but cloaked in the shadows. For those who see today's America as an unveiling, this America comes as a surprise, because perhaps they saw America as a post-racial society, where class struggle had finally taken the front car in the train of oppression, where framing such as the 99% or the 1% created language that only implicated 1% of our population as being the ones in power, the dominants, the oppressors. But see, such language absolves 99% of the people, that cloaks the racialized system and culture in this country that Ta-Nehisi Coates names as tradition, as heritage. But as this comes as a surprise to many, especially because of the Obama years, there are some of us who also see today's America as a backlash, a built-up rage for the increase in conversations and actions that lead towards social justice, which is not new. Social justice has always been part of this country's history. But what true acts of social justice do is it questions who has power, who has privilege, who has access, who gets to speak, who gets to be heard, who gets to be remembered, and who doesn't. And when this happens, there's a threat to those who benefit from such power, because they get to be associated with being smart. It's not surprising when they're called smart. It's not surprising when they're expected to behave, expected to go to college, to read and speak English well, to speak up, to have financial resources, to have institutional positions of power and authority, to be protected by police and law. Those are privileges not afforded to all. So when those privileges get questioned, become at stake, there is backlash. And microaggression becomes macroaggression. Overt oppression becomes culture, becomes sanctioned law again, because this is not the first time. It's just that today, instead of symbols and signs that say no Filipinos, no Mexicans, whites only, today we see red, Make America Great Again hats, stickers, posters. And I'm not sure how much you all see this here in the Bay Area, but when I travel around the country, I see them quite a bit. But when I do, what some folks don't recognize is that it's not my comfortability that's under threat from someone's opinion. What's at stake is my very humanity. And so today, on this day of recognition, I seek to recognize you all, agents of change in this community, amazing youth who are not the future, you are the right now. For your work in fighting for humanity. Today is a day on and not a day off. Cesar Chavez believed that how we use our lives determines what kind of humans we are. And I believe that what this core value meant is that we must look at our own lives, the ways that our daily behaviors, daily actions, thoughts, feelings reflect what we are willing to do, what we are willing to learn, what we are willing to change, stand up for, stand for, sacrifice, in order to rethink the way things are, the way they are. And that means we must be critical about our own selves, the way that we move around systems around us, creating those systems, accepting those systems, perpetuating those systems, and then becoming intentional about how we counter those systems that oppress, benefiting some but harming us all. So today I recognize Cesar Chavez, what he symbolized, what he catalyzed, and how all of you have worked to further what he and many others did and must continue to do in order to become our best selves, to become a better community, to educate the heart, in order to become what we need to become. I am not surprised at the work that you are doing. I expect you to do these things. Young people, I expect you to do these things. Si se puede? Yes, we can. No. We must. We must. We must. And we must. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you to all three of our speakers for those fiery and inspirational and timely comments. Thank you.